Welcome to Photowrk Podcast. I'm Shannon. Over here we got Mylan.
Bazinga.
Which you're going to learn more about Mylan's catchphrases on this show because you might hear it about 1,000 times.
Mm-hmm. That's
because
good.
we have the amazing photographer Ben Cope. He does celebrity advertising, editorial, and also he's a fine artist. He's a man of many skills. You're going to learn from him how he built his career, what it was like working for iconic photographer Steven Klein, and his advice to you on how you can break into the industry.
It's going to be good.
And what else, Mylan?
Bazinga.
Enjoy. Well, welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
With 3 hours of sleep.
Yeah. I've done it before. It's all good.
The audience missed us chatting about you were up shooting until 2 a.m. but didn't wrap until 5 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
back to work.
And back to work at 8?
Doing returns, getting vans back, doing all that stuff. I have like a separate company that we run, like studio rentals and equipment rentals, and so we have a big rental in one of them. So I had to organize all that stuff too last night. So something's always happening.
Yeah. Organized chaos, I assume.
Always.
I'm gonna have you start.
Well, I just want to go off of that. Like, your studio space, is it a living space too, or are you offsite?
Yeah, so about 9 years ago, I like randomly came across this big loft, and I took it over, and it was just a big empty square. And just over the years, I've like built it out and like put a story here and put a story here, and like then I was like, I'll build a cove and like I'll do this and then like install the sinks and all this other stuff, and and just built it out, and now it's kind of become like this thing. And then my roommate moved out, and I was like, I can't do this on my own. And my buddy was like, let me come assist you. Let me be your studio manager. And we went from just like scraping by to like turning it into like a proper business. And then like I got a load of equipment kind of loaned to me by like the guy I first did for about 8 years, because he wasn't working as much, and he was like, you manage it. And I was like, okay. And so I set it up, and we put together like equipment lists, and now I have like everything. And then I'm just constantly investing in more and more and more gear. So it's like, it's just kind of becoming bigger and bigger little by little. So we're in our second year now of this business. So it's like a good side project, pays the rent. And then we took over a second studio that's kind of a little more barren. It's just nobody lives in that one. So it's just kind of dedicated to more raw studio space. So, yeah.
Yes.
Do you have your studio spaces on Peerspace?
We have Peerspace and Gigster, but we also have our own sites, and we have a regular clientele as well. So, yeah.
Keeps it busy.
It does, yeah. It covers the overhead for the most part. So,
Nice.
yeah.
Okay, so I'm sweating.
For
It's
those
hot here.
yeah, it's hot here.
And it's actually not that bad today.
Yeah.
Yesterday was a lot.
Yes, it was.
You were outside the whole day, right?
I was in a big warehouse with no air conditioning for 3 days. So, yeah, I was really
dehydrated.
Yeah.
I don't understand why that's so common. Like, it's hot here.
It feels hotter in the summers now than it used to, obviously. But yeah, it's just, it's like a Southern California thing. I guess they're not big on ACs. So I don't get that.
It's 100 degrees.
Nah, no biggie. I'll put a fan in the window.
Yep.
And even that
Fine.
one half the time.
Yeah, right. On a good day.
So what we wanted to start with was, how did you build your career?
How did I build my career?
Yeah.
Man, I did a model test with this guy that I thought was cool, and he also had a fashion line, and they were starting out, and I was like, let me shoot something for you. I won't charge you anything. And so I started shooting all of his collections every year, and like they had another thing, and then like I was also working with this other company. We were like producing fashion shows a long time ago, and so I would work close with the designers, and I would I just kind of like use my kind of aesthetic and work that in with working with designers and stuff like that, and just little by little, like one thing turns into the next, and it just kind of grows. And I mean, like it's just something you just have to take risks, and you have to just like, I mean, I was hungry, so I just gave it away for free, and then built that and was able to get the agency that represents me now still, like, got them to get that thing going and represent me. And it's just all kind of just over the years just snowballs,
Did they find you when you were like on the like hungry hustle come up side?
It's funny, I just made a joke and texted my agent something that popped in my head earlier that I won't say on the air. But I met Bob, who is the owner of 7 a.m., through one of my best friends who was a model booker at Elite back then, and I would test all of his girls and help people build their books, and in turn building mine. And he at the time was talent management at like Red Rock Entertainment or somewhere. But before it was like at Osbrink, and so they were all at this model convention thing, and we all went out and had a fun night. And just because of my best friend, like kind of had admiration for the work I was doing, and like believed in me, And I was like, man, when are you gonna like quit your job and like start an agency so you can represent me? And that's kind of eventually what happened. And, I mean, he got a partner, and he had other photographers coming in too. But like they always tout me as like their firstborn, And so like I've been with them since the start, and it's just one of those things. Like I feel like in the community of LA, or like even in New York, it's the same. But like once you're in that community of people, everybody kind of like grows together and builds together, because you got to have a strong network to survive. And I guess that's kind of primarily what it was. It's just like people that believed in me and trusted me to like get the job done, and took it from there.
Yeah.
So
That's great.
It sounds like it's more like community versus like competition.
Yeah, I mean, I think competition is BS. Like everybody has their own look or aesthetic, and like you can try to be somebody else, but your vibe is gonna come out. So you never like, I'm not gonna go like copy Matt and Marcus and like try to be they have their own brainwaves and like vibe and what they're gonna be. I can never be that. I used to work for Steven Klein. I like, as much as I love Steven and like love working with him and learned a load, like I'm never gonna be Steven because my brain isn't on that side. So like there can be like competition, but like you got to let ego go and not be like, I have to be better than this person. I have to, like, screw all that. It's like work hard and push yourself to be better than yourself, and then you get better. And it's like you always have to like think like, oh, what can I do to switch it up? What can I do to like not be stagnant? And like having a studio at my disposal, it's not hard to get stagnant. And yeah, I've craving to get outside of the studio lately, because I do live in that celebrity portraiture world and like whatever. But you always have to kind of like turn it over and try to like flip it on its head and see what else comes out. And so that competition you can't rely on, because you can't just steal somebody else's ideas and try to do a one-up on them. It's like you have to figure it out on your own. You can take those references, be inspired by that, but yeah, like all my friends are photographers. They share equipment with me and I share with them, and we swap studios and we do all this stuff. It's like no reason to compete, So.
Mic drop. Boom.
Yep. And my catchphrase, apparently, that was good.
In the previous interview, everything was like, that was good.
That was good. That was good. Yeah. I gotta come up with a new word. Bazinga!
We were joking he was like Guy Fieri, so
Yeah.
it's like Flavor Town or something.
Yeah.
Flavor Town.
Gotta dye your hair for that though.
That's you know what? You gotta commit.
Yeah. If you're gonna go full guy, go guy. Yeah.
I got a bunch of inappropriate jokes off of that too.
All right.
Yeah. Where did you grow up? Where did you come from?
I grew up in Columbus, Georgia, like about 90 miles southwest of Atlanta, like right on the border of Alabama. And I was out there through college and everything. So yeah.
What made the move? How did you make the move, I should say?
I stayed at home for college because my dad was a professor at the university in my hometown. And I was like, I don't want to spend a bunch of money because there's no point in like that because my tuition was free. So not because my dad, because I had the Hope Scholarship is something I have in Georgia. And so I was like, I'll stay home because I don't plan to stay here, and somehow it's like, my dad was just like, let me be your guidance counselor and I'll get you going. And he was like, you love ceramics, take that for your first class or whatever. And I was like, all right. So that got me into the art world. And then I just kind of dove into photography and ceramics. And I was like, I want to move to New York. I want to go to Hunter. I want to get a, MFA in ceramic sculpture. And I want to, live the life of like Peter Volkos and like the big ceramic artists and whatnot. And so I was like, that's all I'm doing. My parents were like, don't you want to apply to any other school? I was like, nope, going to New York, moving to New York. That's what I'm doing. And I went up and stayed with a cousin and had plans and whatever. And of course, my parents were like, how do you expect to pay for New York? Maybe. So I had finished all my coursework or whatever, didn't get into Hunter. And I was working at this gymnastics studio that I used to coach at. And out of the blue, a friend of mine called me up. He's like, yo, I hear you're trying to move out. And I was like, yeah. And he's like, well, we need a roommate. And I was like, well, how much and where are you? And he's like, it's $465 a month and we're in Oakland. I was like, cool, I'll see you in 2 weeks. And no plans to come to the West Coast at all. And my buddy was doing his last hurrah before he got married, and we loaded his car up and we were like, let's go. And we drove all the way out here, and he dropped me off in East Oakland, all San Leandro with crackheads screaming and but I was right there between Fruitvale and Coliseum, in rough neighborhood. And I was like, cool. And on Craigslist while we were driving out, I found a job taking over as a coach for a girls gymnastics team. And so I had a job when I landed, and started working in the East Bay as a gymnastics coach and fiddling around with photography and stuff like that because I was there and had my cameras and whatnot. And a buddy of mine who actually was like, Ben Cope, teach me photography. And he was in my hometown university. He had moved out to the West Coast to go to Brooks. And he was like, Ben, you have to get down here. You have to come here. And I was like, cool. I was like, I'm coming. And I enrolled and was going to go get my master's there. 6 months in, I realized it was a load of garbage and wasted a load of money. But somehow I found a flyer on the wall for do you want to work with the likes of Mizell and this, that, and call this number. And so I called, and the guy was like, do you think you can come in for an interview tomorrow at 8? I was like, yeah. He's like, okay, how about 7:30? I was like, yeah, cool. And he was like, all right, cool, see you at 6:30. And so another friend of mine that was actually going in to work for that company as well as Breeza, a lighting company, big parabolic umbrella stores. Now it's B2 Pro. We went and slept in his car on the street in front of the place. Got up at 6 and brushed our teeth with a water bottle and just freshened up and went in. And before I knew it, I was he's load this camera to this thing, do this thing here, just put this in here, load this into this truck, go. And he's like, I need you in this truck, Universal Studios backlot, go. And I was like, I'm here for an interview, and all I'm doing is I'm already headed to set. And I had no idea what I was doing. Rolled in to Universal Studios New York backlot, New York Street, for Mark Seliger's Rockaware ad campaign pre-light with Jay-Z and Dave Devlin, who's Spielberg's gaffer, and I was fired my first day. But I worked my butt off and worked in the shop and got back on set, and I gained the respect of all those guys, and that was the beginning of it. And then once I got out of that film school mentality and learned what hard work and how to really dig in and do that stuff, I had to earn my respect from those guys, and it took a while, but they put me in, and they it took me up to New York where I was initially trying to go. And then I was back and forth between Steven Klein and Seliger. And I almost went on full time with Seliger, but ended up coming back to LA and went on with Kevin Lynch full time as his first for years and years. So that's kind of how I went around the world to get back to here. But yeah, it's, wild journey, but that's what got me here.
That's good. That's good.
What did you learn the most from like Steven Klein?
How to manage big scale productions and how to like carry a lot of weight on your shoulders, like, because I don't know, there's just like, it's such a refined machine, and like I guess the most important thing I learned is like how to expect a higher production value and like expect certain level of quality, even to like the most minute detail of like when you're cabling lines, run those fuckers straight and give me right angles. Like I don't want cables right, like keep my set tight, and like it's the little stuff like that separates some like jackass that can just like throw some things together to like running a tight set and making sure somebody doesn't trip and kill themselves, and like knowing that you can be trusted with like bigger projects. And it's like it's just a mindset of like expecting top end production. And not that that's what I always have, but like when I do run bigger projects, like that's how we run it. We were on set for the last 3 days, and the guy that on the space we were shooting in, he's like, your guys. He's like, I've never had a set of like grips and like workers that are as like professional and respectful, but also like on top of it and don't fuck anything up. And they're just like, they're on. And he's like, where did you? I was like, I worked with them for years, and they learned the way I learned. Mm-hmm. And it makes everything run smoother. So I guess that's like a big part of it. But also, Steven was always one of my favorite people. Like I was a fan of his before I like ended up on set with him. And it was just like, it was interesting to be there right next to camera and just listen to the way that he interacted with talent and listen to the way he approached things and the things that he asked for. And it like, I don't have any good examples of it. I mean, it's been 10, 12 years, since those days. And like, but it kind of thing that just like is an undertone that you kind of carry with you because you've been there. And I don't know, like it's kind of something that I can't like, verbalize, Mm-hmm. I learned a lot, you just kind of have to be there.
Yeah. I mean, how could you not? I feel like even just spending a day with the guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, we did this, if I remember correctly, we did this crazy Samsung job that was like 4 days straight. And by like 4 days straight, it was like 4 days straight. And I got yelled at by my boss again back then. He was like, why are you at set? You need to be at home resting. And we were like cycling people through on like 8-hour shifts because like they just didn't stop shooting. And it was like a lot of nighttime stuff and overnighters and like back into other things. And just like, and I was like, I have to be there for the team, Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know, it's just one of those things,
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so for the newbies out there, who is Steven Klein?
He's probably one of the biggest, most upper echelon guys up there with Mizell and Paolo Reversi and the late Lindbergh, all of them kind of the DeMarchelier, all those guys kind of exist on a top tier level. Matt and Marcus even, it's just like there's that upper echelon of the fashion elite. There's a book from Dolce & Gabbana that has all of them in it.
We need that book.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, they did a I think it was like 20 years or something like that of Dolce & Gabbana campaigns, and it was everyone that shot them, and it was all the campaigns in this massive book, and it's just beautiful. Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're everyone should aspire to as photographers, as artists.
Yeah.
They're amazing. Well, with Peter Lindbergh passing,
Yeah.
did you have any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, he's always been one of like my favorites because I love his raw aesthetic and like there's nothing like getting out and like running and gunning and just like even with the big I knew that he would roll in with like 4 trucks full of like all this shit and just like build these massive sets. But still, like once that stuff is there, it's like you can create these moments and you capture like the reality of the person and all that kind of stuff that's just so raw, and like you've set the stage for them to interact within. But even though the stage has been set, like the moment is raw, and that's what I love so much about his work. At least that's my interpretation of it. And actually, like that when I saw that the other morning, I was like, fuck, because like I actually worked with him once, and like he lived up to it. You know, like everybody said, he was always the happiest guy on set and always like lifted everybody's moods, and like he was just the nicest dude. And I don't know, so it kind of sucked to hear that, you know, even at what 75, like that's still a little bit young, you know, because he seemed like he was still very active. He's still always shooting. So, but yeah, from what I know.
Well, you just mentioned like from 10 years ago, and you kind of went your story of how you broke into the industry. But how about now? How would someone break into the industry now?
And good luck. I don't know. It's tough because like the budgets are gone for the most part. It like the barrier to entry is so cheap, and the requirement for talent is so minimal, that it kind of sucks. You know, it's like I don't know. I hate to be like all technical and like, you know, like, oh, back in the days when I was a kid, you know, like we used to have to walk backwards rolling Pentax 6.7s one-handed, which we did. But I mean, it's like, you know, I don't know. It's like, and I mean, I even catch myself doing this now. Like I was out shooting film the other day on my RZ, and I was like, I'm going to have my 5D and I'm not even going to use my light meter, you know? And it's like, I don't know. I just feel like it's easy. But the flip side of that is creativity is creativity. And if people are going to create and that's the platform they choose, then let them, you know? And it just becomes very saturated because, you know, where technology is going with like cameras and stuff like that, back to where we initially were saying, like, you have to keep making sure you're better than yourself and flipping your ideas on their heads and like trying to level up a little bit and persistence in that creativity and the building of that vibe and your aesthetic. Like that's how you're going to break it. If you have what people are looking for, whatever, like from portraiture to high-end fashion to video to VFX to whatever, like you're going to make it if you put in the time and the effort and whatever. It's nice to surround yourself with people that are in that world and then in need of that kind of thing, you know, because you're the person they're going to call, which I'm terrible about that. I hate going out. But I mean, it is that it's like a, you know, it's a combination of like talent and networking and like being in the right place at the right time, but also persistence. And like, if you're going to make it, you're going to make it. You got to fight for it though. So.
Yeah. Fight for it hard too. Like, it's not like an easy fight. It's a really.
No, I'm still fighting it.
I think everybody is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does it ever stop?
Yeah, it doesn't.
Yeah.
No, there's always somebody younger and faster.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Mm-hmm. Who can walk backwards and roll the Pentax 6.7?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pentax 6.7 backwards. We gotta walk backwards with the sun to your back so you don't fog the film.
Oh God.
And you got like, we used to, when we were with Mark and we go out and we do like run and gun street shoots, you know, like I have this like Temba bag over my, you know, front with like 5 or 6 bodies in it, and like half for color, half for black and white, and like, you know, got those handles on them, and like film change, like camera would come in and like Patrick would like pull the lens off and I'd hold the body up and he'd slam the lens into it and then just like take it back and hand me the other body and pop it and you flip it and you like tech the film and like load a new one and like put it back in and get ready to switch out again. You know, it's a machine, you know. Mm-hmm. Because that's what film is. You like when you're rocking like 4x5 or, you know, any of that kind of stuff, you're just like, it's like nonstop. So
yeah. So the next thing we want to talk about here is motion.
Motion.
We saw some of your work and Blown away?
Yeah.
Fans?
Fans.
All right.
Yeah, you know.
What's the process like for building like a story for motion? Like going from photo, do you combine them too? Do you do both in the same shoots?
Yeah, all the time. Definitely motion still all the time. I have a few clients that hire me and put me on both sides of that. Creative process, I feel like it's more like dictated around the project or whatever I'm like playing around and trying to do. So I guess I can kind of like become a chameleon with that kind of thing because I've worked on so many different sides of things that it's easy for me to flip it. And like if I need to be commercial, I can be commercial over here. If I need to be really weird, I can be really weird over here. So like a creative process just comes down to like visualizing the concept and where we want to go and say like, okay, let me take this and let me throw this over here and let me flip this and do that and just see where it lands. And then we start to play with the visuals of it and see what happens. And then when you take that down in the edit and like you have like music going or whatever you're cutting to going, like that's where you really start to feel it out and then really create the vibe, I guess. Mm-hmm. A lot of times I feel like I need the music to edit. And that's one of the reasons why I started writing my own music is because like I didn't want to pay royalties to somebody else or have a garbage track that I had to cut to. It's like the client doesn't want to pay this, so use this shitty royalty-free thing. I was like, okay, I'll take that, and then I'm going to listen to it, and I'm going to go sit down and live and score my own thing, and it's going to be better. So I don't know. I feel like all of that. I have a background loosely as a musician. I came up playing drums, and then learned how to play bass a little bit, and it was like teenage punk rocker, like street punk band, like screaming and stuff. But so I understand music enough, especially with being a drummer's background. But then, so I just take that and utilize what I've learned from that and take that into creating the visuals and then how does the soundtrack fit to that and what sounds do I hear with this thing. And it's audio visual kind of they play off each other. It's like a circular motion, in my opinion. Some people don't think that way. So the editors they edit for the edit and the beat of the scene or whatever. And that's not me. I like a drive to the beat or whatever that helps me motivate my movement or my cut or the swing of a camera or I don't know, whatever. Mm-hmm. So I get it. Does that answer? I think I rambled a little bit.
I think it does. Yeah,
definitely rambled a bit on that one.
Well, I mean, that allows us to touch on a personal project that you worked on that we're big fans of, and that's the Girl Pusher song. Yeah, Girl Pusher.
I think a lot of boys like me though. Whatever. So Chris Kidd, who's a poet, he's a screenwriter now too, I believe. He's a really good friend of mine, and he's like, "Ben, I have this song. I want to do this thing, and I want it to be we're in an interrogation room and I just want to be her and you film me as her and then I want to just fucking lose it." And I was like, cool. And we'd been planning it and then all of a sudden my agent, the miraculous dude that he is, convinced the client that I could direct motion and do the stills for a big Sephora campaign. Mm. And so I brought in my crew, and then I brought in an entire motion team to and then DP and manage that so I could bounce because it's a gnarly day on that one too. And it so I had all this stuff and we had just wrapped a 17-hour day on location with a full company move at 12 hours and we were beat. And I was I spent all this money on this camera package. And I was like, Chris, I'm tired, but come over. I know we wanted to do it this way, but let's just do something. Just come over. And so we went back and I rebuilt the camera kit, lit it. And my director buddy, who was kind of co-directing with me on that commercial, came over and we just went to town and I just let Chris do his thing and we just shot it a couple different ways and, wrapped around 2 or 3 in the morning. And then I just sat down and having no idea how to edit really and no real structure yet and to workflow, just started let me speed ramp this and just keyframe the pops and whatever's and just like started doing stuff and seeing what happened. And that video came out of that. And then like Daniel, the guy that was helping me with it, came in and helped me refine it and make it better, because he's like 10 times better at any of that stuff than I'll ever be. And he helped me refine that down, and like we ended up with that thing. And it, like, as soon as I put it out, a creative director of mine, he's like, "Ben, you're directing now?" I was like, "Sure." And
Of course.
He's like, "I have this music video I need shot. I'm gonna, like, I don't like the person I have on it. I'm gonna fire them and hire you." And I was like, "Cool." so then that got us our first like actual paid music video that we did together. And so, yeah. So I don't know. I've kind of like broken off on my own now more so than anything. But yeah, like I was collaborating with my buddy like a lot, like building out these things early on. So yeah.
Obviously, it paid off.
It's like one thing but leads to another. Gotta keep making weird stuff.
And then get hired to make boring stuff.
Yes, because that's where the money is. Like, you can give me a boring commercial all day and I will light the shit out of it and make it look good, and you will be happy, and I will take that check.
And then go make weird shit.
Yep, goddamn right.
Stay tuned for part 2 with Ben Cope, where he shares advice on how a new director can elevate their work, how he maintains being an artist, and also how he is able to balance being a dad with a very busy career.